Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BT's Fly Tying Friday. Tonight, the 17th of October, we're going to wander into something you've never seen before. It's called a wonder walker. And we're going to dig really into the ringneck pheasant feathers and give you a few ideas of things that you might use that for, besides the ones that we're tying tonight. Anyway, we're the BTs from Boise, Idaho. And before we get started, do we have any questions from anyone? Otherwise, good. Everybody's muted. Please stay that way. Or if you send a question our way, no problem. We love questions, but then mute yourself again if you would, please. All right. Now, tonight, I'm going to start by showing you a recipe to a fly that doesn't need a recipe. This is what we call a concept fly. Everything we teach is a concept fly. And here is the Wonder Walker. Dry fly, scud, or sedge hook. In other words, it's wide open as to what you use, but it's going to be 8 to 20. The thread can be your choice to match dubbing. Rib is optional. The wing stabilizer, we'll talk about that in a second. It's bent monofilament. The wing is ringneck body feathers. Dubbing for the body. Hackle is just the color I happened to run across hanging on the wall just a minute ago, so that's what I'm using. And thread. And what I wanted to talk about for a sec here, let me get over here to the materials area real quick and grab my flame and my knife. And as you can see, the knife is already has nylon already pre-installed. In fact, let's go to this thing that we talked about a couple weeks ago, building the stabilizers. And that's just a knife with nylon wrapped around it. I'm not going to go into a big to-do about that. You already know that I've taken a light passing of the flame right along here. I don't want to burn it. I just want to make those melt. And then I take a piece of tape, this one, and put it right there to keep them from falling off. And then I melt the other side. And what you end up with is this. You got a loop with a little ball on each end. And that little ball is kind of handy to hang on to. I'll just set that down. And let's take a look at tonight's roadmap fly. Now, this is either fly that we're tying tonight. What I'm going to do is show you, again, we're showing you techniques on getting a fly, of taking any fly idea, if you will, and turn it into what you need for your area, your waters, your bugs. You know, this is just a what if, and what we have here is a wonder wing fly. Those are the wonder wings. And we've got just a hackle tail. I've got hackles though, and I want you to notice that the hackles are not wrapped around the hook. I've got a parachute hackle on each wing. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, holy criminy, that's got to be a real pain. Trust me, it is. It's a real pain. I'm going to go through the pain for you tonight. Then I'm going to show you an easy workaround that gives you almost identical results. And it happens to be our number one fly. The only reason this one's not number one, because it's too darn hard to tie. And we've got a lot of experience, but it's still kind of a pain to tie. Before I get started, do I have any questions?
Yeah, Al, last week you said that the reason you tied the Miracle, your wing the way you do was so they were flexible and wouldn't spin. Does that posted hackle change that capability?
No, it doesn't change anything at all as long as you don't tie the stem down. But I want you to notice on the hackle from above, it's pretty helter-skelter. But that's good because that's what allows the air to flow through or not flow through and settle the fly on the water. And that's actually better than some of the flies where it's wrapped around the hook. But it can vary. You know, when it's wrapped around the hook and right in front and back of the wings, you can have a pretty stiff wing, and that hackle protects the wing and keeps it from spinning. Okay, let's get to the materials area. And as you can see, I have some stuff. And I'm going to start out with a free tip. Tonight, my chosen thread was this nice tan thread to go with the tan dubbing. And you already saw the fly, it's tan. And so I'll just set that over at the vise. But Jesus, I started tying with that stuff this afternoon, and that was just seemed to break too doggone easy. Well, if you'll recall, a while back, I discussed with all of you salvaging thread that has gone bad. And if you'll just take off a whole bunch of thread and throw it away, sometimes you work your way down to thread that's still good. Now, I'm hoping that it's still good. That I threw enough away off of this. It was a new spool. I hadn't tied on it forever, and it was starting to rot on the outside. I think I've gone down far enough, but I may break the thread a time or two again. But I'm such a Scotsman when it comes to materials that, well, I'm going to try to nurse this spool of thread, and it's going to take a lot for me to throw away an almost full spool of thread. But anyhow, set the thread over there, and I'll set this aside. My dubbing wax, I'll get to that in a minute. Here's the feathers that I'm going to use. Get the tail material, hackle, all of that. And don't worry about this. I haven't gone crazy into crafting, but there's some craft paint, and we'll be talking about that when we get to the weekly tip. But anyhow, I think I've got everything. I got a bunch of hooks already over at the vise. So I'm going to pop over there, get rid of this fly. I'll just set it aside. I got to set that aside so we can send it to Jeff. Okay, there's that. As you well know, Gretchen and I use our thread application to identify property lines, if you will, on the fly. As an example, the division between the body and the hackle area, or where the wing goes, and that kind of stuff. And in this particular fly, the wing goes right here, about a third back from the hook eye. And I'm going to wrap part of the way to the end of the shank and stop. And that's because I'm doing a hackle fiber tail. And I'm going to take a minute and go into the weeds on this hackle fiber tail stuff to explain to you why we tie our hackle fiber tails to the bare hook, not on thread. Let me get over to the materials real quick. Let's see, I've got a good cocktail feather here that I'll drag over to the vise. There, that guy is right there. I'll set that down. And I'm going to go ahead and do something I don't do. I'm going to wrap all the way to the end of the hook, shank, whoops, and then get ready to tie on a tail. And one of the problems that often happens is, let's say you get the tail tied on and it's straight out the back the way you want it. Well, I'm going to tell you about dimension. Not much there to see, but I can tell you right there, the part of the hook that's got thread on it is thicker than the part that's bare. That's just logic that's the way it is. And you will end up, if you tie your flies with thread under the hackle fiber tail, not hair or some of the other stuff, but hackle fibers, what happens is you wrap to the end and it's looking real good. I'll guarantee you driving down a nasty gravel road with bumps and stuff in the truck, and all your flies end up slipping off that dimension and sliding slightly, and you end up with a tail that's going slightly downhill. Just like that. If you instead do like I talked about and tie the hackle to the bare stem, like I'm going to do here. Okay, there we are. And I'm going to set this guy aside. That's a beautiful, but it doesn't go with the cream colored body and hackle and stuff. So I got one over here for that. Over here at the materials area, grab this guy right here and take him over to the vise. And press these out from the hackle stem. Now I want you to notice I've got those barbs nicely lined up. I don't want them to miss a line, so I'm going to really pinch them hard. And if I tear them off the feather with my left hand, pulling away from the feather, invariably the motion of that hand will cause the fibers to miss a line. On the other hand, if I really pinch down hard with my left, like I'm doing here right now, and grab the feather and just tear it off, you'll almost never misalign the tail. Just one of those little things that we try to teach when we do concept flies. We're not trying to teach you how to tie patterns. You can go anywhere on YouTube and learn how to tie a pattern. We want to teach you techniques that'll make tying that pattern a lot better. And the result that you get a lot better too. And I'm just wrapping to the end of the shank. And I want you to notice how that tail sticks right out the back. And it is not going to slip over the end and make that tail go down and make that tail go downhill like that. I want my tail out straight out the back. And I know there's a bunch of very well-known people in the industry that thinks the tail should be tilted up. One of them passed away recently, a good friend of mine, A.K. Best, thought they should be like that. It would always bring a loop of thread under them. But anyway, I like them this way, and of course I like whatever the customer likes when they're ordering flies. But when I am doing a presentation or tying my own flies, and I do what I like. Now let me slip back over here to the materials area. And typically, God, I got feathers all over the place here, but I'm going to grab these church window feathers from a ringneck pheasant. I think you'll all recognize them. And that's what I'm going to use for my wings tonight. Just take those two that I've already got evened up and prepared and everything. And just going to dress the base ends of both of those feathers back. Now, there's a formula with wonder wings or looped wonder wings. And that formula is this length of stem with the folded back fibers. We're looking at this right here. I hope you understand if you don't understand that, please holler. It's the stem from here to here on the fibers that are folded back. That should never be any longer than half the length of the hook shank. Well, I've got too much there. Besides, I've got a bad division between the front and the back feather. So I'm going to go in here and reposition those and get in here and use my bodkin to divide them evenly, top and bottom. See how that's divided evenly there. Thanks for moving into that tight shot, Gretch. That was good plan there. Now, what I'm going to do is, I want my wings to be about that long. I'll guarantee you, if I try to tie those wings on, and the twisting of the torque of the thread is going to just have those fibers over the top of each other like crazy. So what I'm going to do is temporarily use the strength of the stem to tie this on real short, stem fibers and all, with 2, 3 snug but not tight turns. Now I'm going to pull on the tips of the feathers and bring this out to the length that I want it to be. And in the process of pulling it out, the shape of the barbs of the feather will, come here, There, there we go. There we go. The shape of the barb of the feather will right it. You notice it was laying on its side a second ago when I started to pull, and as it slid out from under those turns of thread, it I want it just a little bit longer. There we go. That looks good. Now, here's something that's really important. Don't cinch down yet. What you want to do is pull that back and hold it in the pinch. Pinch there at the bottom a little bit, and now tighten up and wrap a thread down in front too to kind of make that stand up. There we go. Now, what I want to do is do a good job of blending the waist from the wing into the waist from the tail so that I get a nice tapered body. And the only negative I have about the body feathers from the pheasant is they are a little short for these big flies. And understand though, I almost never tie a size 12 for my own fishing. It's, unless it's a streamer, it's a size 14 and smaller for the biggest part. All right, there we go. Now let me wrap over that, those trimmed ends, and smooth them into a taper in the underbody. See how that all pulls together by trimming them at an angle. All right. Now here we're hanging right here, and I want to pull up. I think I'll wait a sec. I am going to get one of my supports. And I'm just going to grab one here, pull it off. By the way, you notice on the back side here that the sticky only gets into those loops on one side of the tape, the sticky side of the tape. And that way you're able to pull those supports off pretty easy. Okay, now I am going to take this support and just pull it up into place right between the wings. And I'll straighten that one out. There we go. The main thing is to get them right between. There we go. Good. Well, I slipped there and that didn't do me any good. It's a shame.
You don't take a wrap around the bottom of them to bring them all back together?
I will here in a sec.
Okay.
There we go. I had to get them setting just right so that the support was in the center. So what I want you to see now is I've got my two wings out to the side with the support right smack in the middle. And that's what I was struggling with, is getting it right there. Now I'm going to take and cut off the waste parts of the wing. And don't throw those away. That's not waste. That's future flies. And I'll just stick that into my clip so it's ready to tie the next fly. And I can probably get 4 or 5, maybe 6 more flies out of that set of feathers. Anyway, now let's wrap around the wing and the support so that I can use that support to strengthen that very, very weak. And
so you're wrapping around one support and
and
the far wing.
let's see if I can show you.
Okay.
See,
Good.
there we are.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'll try to do that from this angle and see if it shows up better in the camera than good.
It shows up good.
Okay, now I have to get back, see what I'm doing, because I was setting it up there so you guys could see what was going on there, and it wasn't. I couldn't see what was going on. I had to look through the camera to find out. All right, let's get the near side wing. Let's see if you can. Let me get that so you can see what's going on.
Let me try the far shot.
Now I'm going to talk to you about, are they able to see that? Oh, okay. I wrapped up my post there where I'm capturing the base of the wing and the support, and I'm throwing in what I call rebar, concrete and rebar. The wraps that I put around the base of the wing, let me turn it around here so you can see what I'm talking about. The wraps that I put around the base of the ones that are going around and around, that's concrete. The straight up and down ones are the rebar that I add to the concrete. Let's see the way you've got that. Let's see if I can get this so they can see that process with it. I can't see it, but I'll guess. Okay, I'm wrapping up to the top of the post, even though the fly is upside down. Now I go straight from the top to the hook and that up and down. And now I'm going to come and wrap the other direction. So I just put in 2 applications of rebar and 2 pours of concrete. And that's that really weak feather there is now just as tough as can be. Let's see here. Well, and I messed up, and I went in showing you all that stuff. I got one of the supports on the inside, the other one on the outside. I'll just live with it. It's not what I wanted, but it'll work. All right, now let's get into the dubbing. I'm just using some bulk dubbing that Gretchen fixed up for me. It's in our hare's ear color. Could be any color that you want. And it's just some of our Touch-A-Tron. I've already got a clump of it over there at the fly tying vise, and I'll grab our wax and I'll slip over there. And I'll take the cap off of the wax. I'm going to turn that cap up like this. So it's setting open, pointing up. So I maybe don't forget to put it back on. Now I'm going to put wax on my thread. There we go. And I'm going straight down into that cap, as you can see. And why is that? Let me tell you what, the absolute worst mess you can do to yourself is to drop that wax with no cap on it in your trash bin. And don't ask, but it happens to me regularly enough that those of you who are on this channel on a regular basis well, I've talked about it before, and sometimes I talk with a lot of energy when I do that. Okay, let's twist this in one direction and get this dubbing going. Like I probably will need a little bit more to finish the fly. And tying 14s and 16s too much. But let's get out here to the end of the hook. And we'll just dub our way right up to the back of the body there. Looks like I'm going to make it back. I'll be able to tie down, and then I'll add some to tie on after I tie on the feather. All right. I need the feathers now for the hackle. Slip over to the materials area and get that. Now I want you to notice that I've already stripped the stem, and I'm going to move my thread in front of the wings, tie the feather in place in front. All right, there we go. Just set this back here in this handy dandy thing that we're going to talk about next week at length. But anyway, I've got a nice, you want to go to the wide shot? Yeah, I've got this nice magnetic thing to keep that feather out of the way for me right now. And it'll do a bunch of other things, but right now it's just keeping the feather out of the way while I get some more dubbing in place. I'll just Get that going. One of the things about having a gardening channel on YouTube is that you're working in the garden a lot. Of course, we're working in the garden a lot because we got a garden. As much as I try to clean my fingers and fingernails and everything so they look good on screen for you guys, it just don't work. It don't work. I just looked down and I said, oh, what's that black fingernail looking at me for? Anyhow, so now let's take this feather out from underneath the magnet, and I'm going to wrap the first wing, the one on the off side, or you can wrap the one on the wing on the near side. Well, maybe I'll do the one on the near side and then I'll go to the off side. Now, one of the things that I've learned about this is you see how these are about at a 45-degree angle. I'll get them cocked around there for you. Well, let me make them much wider. Makes it easier to wrap those hackles. Then we'll put them back together. See how that is? It's more flattened out. Okay, now. Now you are seeing right now an experienced tire having less than a fun time wrapping these parachute hackles on these wings, even though they have been strengthened. They still are not the rock solid thing they were when we were doing it a few months back on hair wings. Now I'm doing the opposite side. And I'm going to have to hold this and tighten up this vise so it doesn't keep moving on me. There we go. Now I'll just wrap that hackle around the offside wing. Notice how I have to kind of weave the hackle. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to take and wrap around and bind that feather down and put on a half hitch. And another half hitch, followed by a 2-turn whip finish. Made with the same tool. And those of you that haven't seen that before, it's a 2-turn jam knot. If you let the turns come off that tool tight, if they come off loose and you allow them to collapse over each other, then they become a whip finish. Okay, let me trim off that. And I'll get this fly ready for this hackle ready for the next fly. All right, now there's you always, when you wrap these two parachutes on the same fly, there's a few captured fibers that you didn't want to do. And that's what I'm taking care of right now. All right. Let me pinch those wings closer together. And now what you have is legs that will set in the surface film with a good distorted area above the double wings, like that, the double parachutes. And I'm going to tell you right up front, guys, you saw me struggling with it tonight, and if you haven't done it before, you'll be talking to your favorite person real well, real quick.
Are you going to cut out the?
I'm going to cut those off now, but first I'm going to put a drop of head cement. In this case, it's a Healthy Hoof that you can get off of Amazon.
Mm.
And let me take my needle now and push that down into there. Good. Set that aside, get my scissors out. Get rid of the support.
The reason he has those little knobs on the end is for something to hang on to.
Yep. And it's a natural occurring thing when you use flame to cut it off the knife. But any questions from you there?
Can you tie the supports on first? I thought last week you tied them on first, just saying.
I don't remember anyway. I can tell you that I've tried it both ways, every way under the sun over the last 3 months of this fly bouncing around in my brain. And I'll tell you it's less frustrating to put them on second. And now maybe you have a skill set that I don't have, and it'll work real well for you. But you can go either way. It shouldn't make any difference. It's whatever works best for you.
Well, John Wright fully understands about the fingernails. He has the same issue after pulling weeds and
Yeah,
killing trees all day.
yeah. It doesn't go away just overnight. Any questions though? Well, now I'm going to show you the easy version, the one that you guys are going to probably go out and want to do yourself. And I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit because I'll be repeating a bunch of this. I won't be explaining all about the wings and how they set them and the tail and how it goes downhill and all that stuff. But I am going to do instead is pick up the pace until we get to the point of doing the hackle. And then we'll slow down so you can see what the easy version looks like. Okay. Again, I'll start my thread base where I want the wing to start. Right there. I'll wrap back part way towards the hook bend and stop, leaving bare hook to tie my tail on. Over here, getting my wings. I think I'll just use the same feathers I used last time. Yep, looking good. Whoops. I grabbed wings and I should have been grabbing tail. I got the tail now. All right. Make sure that they all line up. And I have to kind of twist them around a little bit because they're different length. There we go. See, the others further down the stem, I had to pull them back like that to get them to line up because they were different lengths. Well, these are different lengths now. And as you get towards the tip, it's the shorter ones are towards the tip. And now I've got them so that they are pretty much lined up as far as that bundle right there. But I'll just pull the feather away, measure for length, set it in place. Now notice that I'm slightly above the hook. I'll just bring the tail down beside the side of the hook and take a loose loop over that, and then roll that material right up on top. And I want you to notice that this finger over here, right there, that guy is doing that every time I wrap a thread. I just do it automatically now, but I'm bringing it to your attention because what happens if I don't do that is that material starts to go to the other side of the hook. But thread torque can be counteracted in a number of ways. And as I come around and the torque is grabbing it, I just roll my finger tight against the material. I let the edge of that finger guide the thread into place. And there we go. All right. I dropped my feathers for the wings just as I was getting ready to bring them up to the hook. Down they went. So I had to go searching for them. I hope I got the same two feathers. Shoot, who knows? I might be in trouble. These aren't lining up right. I may have grabbed a couple feathers. Let me just get over to the area here. And I'll grab this bunch right here and give them a try. There we go. I had a backup plan B and C and everything else just in case things went to heck on me there. That's working out better. Those two are matched. I could have made the others work, but I didn't want to stumble around in front of you all. And it doesn't make that much difference because you guys will forget in a short time, but what I post on YouTube tomorrow will be there for a long time. Now let me run my thread forward to my marking point, the place where I want those wings positioned. Loose turns over the stem and fibers and everything there. And now I'm just going to pull them out from under those loose turns, shaping my wing as I go. All right, now let me trim off the waist. There we go. Now it's up to you whether you want to put the supports on this or not, because there's two ways that I can do this. And I'm going to attempt to do this without the supports by using a drop of UV glue. If that works better for you, it might be just the ticket for you. So let me get up here right where those wings are supposed to be. There they are. And I'll wrap a thread dam in front to make them stand up straight. Okay. Great. And I'm going to crisscross between them to set them in the position I want them. Okay, I'll pull these back to trim off the waste. Not waste, it's future flies. If you don't drop them in the bin first, like I did. All right, I'll set that aside. And let's take a look at our wings now. Looking pretty good. Now I am going to need to strengthen these wings, and I'm going to try to strengthen the base of those wings without the support. If it doesn't work, I may have to go back and put a support in. But I'll just start wrapping. Remember my concrete and rebar analogy? Well, okay. Right there, I'm at the top of the wing post. I'll go straight from the top and anchor it to the bottom of the hook shank. So now I have one. Now I'm going to go around and around that base again from the other direction and bring that support in there. Up the one up and down is rebar, the other two are concrete. And I am going to go one more time around. I'll turn that around so you can see. And I'll wrap around, sturdying up pretty good. Whoops. Sturdying up pretty good. I'll put one more rebar in there. All right. Now let's get to the other side. I think I'm going to get by without having to use the supports. Now I'm going to go the other direction. Oops. Okay, and that's two supports. Third application, third support. Three rebars, three applications of concrete. We should be good to go. Let me make sure these are set like they ought to. Yep, I'm very pleased with that. And I did get by without having to use the supports. The supports are really handy for wrapping the hackle and stuff. It's real nice if you don't have to mess with them though. Now, what I am going to do, and I want this to dry up before I before I do the rest of the body and hackle and everything, and I'm going to use some UV glue and just a dot of it, and where I want it is right down here on the post itself. I want that post reasonably stiff. And I've got two posts there, and as you'll see, they're going to be. It's important that they're stiff, and you'll see why here directly. But let's get that. I don't know if you can see the glue there or not, but let me zap it. Okay, that gives me a good basis there. Okay, now put my glue and light away. As my good friend Susan Parsons says, I should be careful with that UV. Whether it comes from the sun or it comes from a flashlight, too much is not good. All right. Any questions up to this point before I move on into the body and the hackle? You're going to, shall we say, you'll be surprised when you see how easy the hackle is compared to what I just did on the other one. Anyway, let's duck in here. And I'll grab my dubbing wax, pull that cap off. Remember, I'll turn it upside down so that it's facing up so I can put my wax on the thread. Straight down into the cap. Set that aside. Grab my bundle of dubbing. I want to talk about that for a minute. If I grab that bundle of dubbing like that, see it's in my fingers, and you cannot touch dub that way. You want to touch dub like you were holding the handle of a paintbrush back here, and what's sticking out in front are the bristles of that paintbrush. You don't paint a house by grabbing the bristles like that. You paint it by allowing the bristles to do their job, and that's what we're going to do here. Is we want the loose stuff there ready to be drug out of the bundle by the sticky thread.
While you're doing that, then we have a question. Can the healthy hoof be used instead of the UV?
It could be, but you got to wait for it to dry. And I could, and what I would do is I would tie a bunch of up to that point if I was using healthy hoof, and then set them aside and let them dry, and then come back and finish the fly later after the healthy hoof dried. But I didn't have the time to do that tonight, so I used UV. All right, here we go. Some of you may notice, especially if you're new to the channel, that I don't use a lot of dubbing. Well, except for some hexagenias in Michigan lakes, most of the bugs that are on the water, especially the mayflies that we're trying to imitate here, are they're pretty skinny. They're not real fat and robust. Often people use just a little bit more dubbing than they really need. Usually about 10 times more than they need. Here that just fell down into the waste bin, and now I got trash all through it. Like I said, stuff happens. All right, now I've got the feather. The stem is bare, just a short piece there at the end, and I'm just going to tie it in from the near side in front, cinch it down real tight, and notice that I'm tying it to the hook while I'm dubbing the front of the fly. Now I'm going to leave the thread hanging behind the wings. And now I'm just going to start wrapping a parachute hackle. But notice how I dip down on the side. Here, let me tip it up here. I don't wrap straight across. I dip down just like that. And let's see if you can see on this side here. Maybe there you go. As I'm not coming across like that, I'm coming down, so I'm getting into the crotch there of that position between the wing post and the body. All right, so now I'm just going to continue wrapping a parachute. Bring the hackle around, nurse it around, tie it to the post, take another turn there, tie it to the post, bring it up over the head of the fly or the eye of the hook. And I always strip it for the next fly. I'll set that down. Take one more turn to tuck that trimmed end under. And now let's get out here to do a couple of half hitches and a whip finish. 2 half hitches. Now we're going to do a whip finish. If I pull that off under tension like you see right there, it will be a jam knot. If on the other hand, I allow it to collapse over, it's a whip finish. Those loose ones fall over the others and it becomes a whip finish. Now what I want to do is take these wings that are kind of far apart. There you go. And I want to pinch them together. And I could very easily glue them again if I wanted to. I got a couple of fibers that I caught when I was tying off. And now I want you to see the underside. It's not a parachute. It's not a double parachute, but it's down there in the position where it can set there on the water, where a regular parachute would be straight across the top of the body. Here at the top of the body, these tip down and are very similar to that double parachute that I wrapped on the other fly. And they set so much better on the water. And I have tied a lot of my parachutes on divided, I would call it stabilized divided wings for that very reason. If you really dip down when you wrap it around, it gives you a really nice positioning on the water, and it's a good imprint on the water as well.
I never had seen dubbing put on the way you did it. I've always done it but what you just did is like walking into a dark room and turning the light on, the way you put that dubbing on.
Well, thank you. I'd like to show you something about touch dubbing then, because there's 2 types of touch dubbing. The one that I demonstrated tonight that Gretchen and I use, and it's called touch twist. And Gary LaFontaine, someone that was well known to a lot of fly fishers a few years back, he used a process called touch dubbing, period. And I'm going to show you the difference. Let me get a hook here in the vise. If you want to go to the hook there. I'm glad you mentioned that, Robert, and I'll just set that aside for a second. Get another hook out here. All right. Now, first off, I am going to do touch noodle, just like Gretchen and I do. I'll just put a thread base over the whole hook. Remember, the only time I don't put a thread base on the hook is on hackle fiber tails. Okay, the back half of this fly is going to have touch noodle. And let me get the wax out. I'm showing you something. I'm showing you a bonus fly, and if you don't know it. And we'll just get the. All right. Now I'm going to touch this on there. Remember, you don't grip it in a death grip. You hold it like a paintbrush, so that the waxy thread can pull that stuff out. Okay, I'll set that down. And go ahead and put the back on. And this is, like I said, this is touch noodle, and I want to make sure it's all dubbed up, if you will. Now we're going to go to the LaFontaine method. And this will blow your mind. But it's going to do the front of this nymph that I'm tying. It'll be the front, and I'm going to touch the dubbing on here. Okay, you see what I've done? I'm not going to twist it or anything. I'm just going to wrap it on the hook. And what happens as I wrap it on the hook, every time I take a turn around the hook, the thread makes one twist. All those little fibers that are stuck there get twisted right into the twist of the thread, and you end up with a very buggy looking application. In fact, what you have to do is wrap and stroke back, wrap, stroke back. And that's working right up towards the eye. And I'll finish that off. This is a great way to tie nymphs because they just absolutely shimmer in the surface film. And yeah, some of that comes off.
Well, and that's got that is that Tetratron?
Yeah.
Why don't you shine the light on it, show what it does with the Tetratron?
You mean the UV light?
Yeah,
Okay.
it should show that. Should show the sparkle. I think you can see the bright little specks in there. That's Antron.
But anyway, that's what it looks like in the surface film. And I'll tell you what, it's an absolute killer nymph application. Absolute killer.
Dennis wanted you to hold the two different flies side by side so he could see.
Oh, the ones we did tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You wrapped around the wing, and then the one where you just wrapped around the base of both of them.
Okay, let me get this out of here. Let's see, that one that's the parachute. And that one no, that's not the parachute. That's a double parachute. This is a single parachute. Let me get a holder for that. Okay, there's that. And you can see the way it is. Okay, that's the double parachute or the Wonder Walker. And this one is.
Can you turn the Wonder Walker so it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
hook eye front? There
Yeah.
you go. So we get the same view.
Very similar. I'm the one on the right with the parachute is slightly different, but still the parachute is much further into the water than when you just wrap it across the top of the body on a post on the wings. Any other questions? Well, Jeff, you even get that piece of dubbing, two kinds of dubbing on a hook, and it's a nymph. You just put it on your leader and go fishing.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go into the weekly tip. We're going to learn about some more feathers on a ring neck cape. Pelt, I should say, because it's the whole body. And what I'm going to do is come back here and go to the vise. I'll pull this guy out of the vise for a moment. Put it right out there. And what I'm going to do now is start bringing up a series of hooks. with a set of wings tied, wonder wings tied, and the feather that they were tied with tied to the back of the hook. I think you'll all recognize this blue looking kind of a thing. And would you ever guess that those wings are tied out of the same feather? And here we have the same situation. Again, this is just a couple of feathers off of a ringneck pheasant pelt. There's the wings. Nice, deep dun wing for a dun color for a dun mayfly. And you can see the feather that it was done with, or that it was tied with. You should recognize all of these if you have a full cape at home someplace. By the way, I have not done all the feathers on a cape. Oh my God, I probably did half of what was on this cape. There's another one. Feather at the back, the wings that it makes. Now here is some that I was using earlier tonight. And that's the feather at the back, and that's the wings that I was tied on. Let's see, that fly right there that I tied this afternoon. So set that aside. Now, with this same feather, it has gobs and gobs of applications. Now, don't laugh, because what I'm going to show you now is I used to work when I was a kid, I worked as a house painter for one summer. So I can paint a house really good. I can't paint any kind of stuff worth a darn. And you can see I put some paint on those feathers. They can be used for cheeks on some kinds of streamer flies. Now, understand, you'll have to be more creative than I am with those globs of paint. But that paint happens to be tulip. This one's glow, and this one's puffy, and they're just paint that squeezes out of a jar. Now, I probably would have done a lot better if I'd have squeezed a bunch more onto some tin foil and painted it on with a brush, but I wasn't trying to show you how to paint feathers. I was trying to give you the idea that you can paint feathers. Now, I'll just get this out of here. That's the last one I tied. I'll put it into there we go. Any other questions?
Al, when you
Yes.
tie your post and you go to drop the thread down to make the rebar, what keeps it from sliding down after you've rolled the concrete?
Oh, it'll slip down a little bit, but you still have basically a spiraled up and down, not straight down, but spiraled up and down strand amongst the rotating strands. And I guarantee you, one piece of rebar and one bit of wrapping, and you'll be surprised how the weakest feather can get strong real quick.
I see. Thank you.
Yep. Well, next part of the program is where all of you share with us and the rest of the group on whatever you have going. And we're always delighted to bring Evelyn on. She's our resident artist.
Hey, there's the first one.
Damn, I wish I could time that good.
You can. And here's the second one.
Oh, wow. Good job. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Oh, you're welcome. I really enjoy doing this, I tell you.
Well,
I
we,
missed it.
we truly enjoy having you on to share your artwork with us.
You're more than welcome.
I have often had this problem. Every one of you have had this problem where you're on the river, probably with cold hands because it's this time of year, and it's except for Paul down in Australia, and the other fellows on from Australia. But anyway, you get your leader tangled in the little loop-de-doo on your zipper. I know, it never happens to you, but I'm a clumsy sort of a fellow. And the genius of Bill Klumper comes along, and he has a solution for that. And I'm going to spotlight you, Bill, and maybe you'll do your screen share or whatever you want to do to.
What I found out is you can use UV cure resin.
Okay,
Basically, put a dot of UV cure resin right where my arrow's at. There, I'm curing the UV cure resin. There, the UV cure resin is cured on the zipper pull. You'll never snag a leader again.
Don't you just love it? Because I cannot tell you how many times I have snagged a leader in a zipper pull and ended up just busting the fly off and pulling everything out and doing it all over. Bill, I love that. Thank you so much.
One question. Everybody else knows what it means. I don't. You referred to concrete a time or two.
What did you say?
I think he's confused about what you mean when you talk about concrete.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll just put some black thread on here. And I'm just going to take a clump of calf tail and tie it on and then strengthen it so that I can do what we were talking about just a minute ago.
Like a post, do a parachute post.
I'm going to make a really strong parachute post using the concrete rebar method. Now, I'm not going to bother stacking this stuff. I'll just kind of line it up with my fingers and pull out any of the wild ones. And I'll get my other glasses now so I can see the thread wraps. There we go. All right, now I'm going to stand the bundle of hair up by wrapping some thread wraps in front. There we go. Now that has nothing to do with rebar and concrete. Okay, there we are, standing straight up. What I'm going to do is I have a bad shoulder and I cannot wrap up the post, so I go up the post by wrapping down after I've turned the vise over. So I'm still going up the post. And what I do is I take a turn around the post. I am in the process of pouring concrete down the hole. Around and around.
So the wraps around are the concrete.
That's correct. That's the concrete that I'm pouring there. Now this is still kind of wiggly. See, I'm pulling on that and it wiggles. So I am going to go now straight from the top of that post, straight to the body and anchor it. So what I have now currently on here is several wraps going around and around, one going up and down. And yeah, it slips a little bit and it kind of curves down, but it's still an up and down strand. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap now in the other direction. I'm going to pour concrete in Australia. And you see, it's already starting to firm up a lot. And I'll put a strand of rebar in right there. So around and around, going the other way with an up and down strand, and it's already very strong. But I'll put it in a third, and it'll be bulletproof. I'll wrap again in the normal direction. Straight down with the rebar. And I don't want that rebar hanging in the breeze. The boss won't let us do that. That's dangerous to have rebar hanging in the breeze. So we'll make another pour of concrete going up, back down. And now you have an absolute bulletproof post made out of concrete and rebar. That's it for tonight, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, wrap those threads.